CBS 6 Sports anchor Sean Robertson.
CBS 6 Sports on the road at the ACC tournament here in Greensboro, as well as the Atlantic 10 tournament in Brooklyn, New York. Now, before we get to Lane at the Barclays Center, breaking news concerning the NCAA tournament next week. USA Today reports all men and women's games next week will be played at the scheduled venues without any fans inside due to the coronavirus. Only essential staff and immediate family will be allowed inside to watch the games. We just received that news a little over an hour ago here at the Greensboro Coliseum. Now we're going to talk about some news on the court, and we start with the VCU Rams in the Atlantic 10 tournament up in Brooklyn, and we go to Lane Casadante with that.
VCU fans have gotten more of a glimpse of the future of this program than they may have bargained for over the last few games. True freshmen have combined to average nearly 70 minutes of floor time in the last 3 games alone due to so many injuries to the upperclassmen. Expect that trend to continue here in Brooklyn.
We'll fire them up, get them really excited about them playing in their first conference tournament in Barclays, and help the team win. They're all going to play. They're all going to be thrown in the fire, so be ready to go. I think the freshmen getting thrown in the fire with these injuries have given some life to the team. So I'm really proud of that, and now build on it. That's the challenge to these guys this week and moving forward is continue to build on it.
As of Monday, Vince Williams, Corey Douglas, and De'Riante Jenkins were all still out for the Rams, while Isaac Vann and Marcus Evans' minutes were going to be limited with the hope that they can play more when they tip off against UMass here on Thursday afternoon. From the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, Lane Casadante, CBS 6 Sports.
Greensboro Coliseum, the Virginia Cavaliers finished the regular season with 8 straight wins and claimed the number 2 seed in this year's tournament. They will play the winner of the Notre Dame-Boston College contest Thursday night in the quarterfinals. That game will start at the top of the hour. The Cavaliers turned their season around from late January, from possibly not even making the NCAA tournament to being a strong contender to win this year's ACC tournament. Several players on this year's team experienced the national title run last season, and according to head coach Tony Bennett, it can be beneficial as they go for their second ACC title in 3 years.
But from last year's experiences, absolutely you learn from how you approach it, your mindset, how you practice. And then the guys that do have the experiences from last year will be valuable, but I don't think you make too much of it.
Virginia Tech's run in the tournament ended last night in the first round as they fell to North Carolina 78-56. Garrison Brooks led 4 Tar Heels in double figures with 20 points. Former Trinity standout Armando Bacot had a double-double, 12 points and 11 rebounds for UNC. Hunter Couture led the Hokies in scoring with 14 points. We'll have much more from both the A-10 tournament in Brooklyn and here in Greensboro with the ACC tournament tonight at 11. The News is 6 back in Richmond continues right after this.
Breaking news from the sports world. This year's NCAA tournament has been canceled because of the coronavirus. So that means no March Madness. It was just a series of events that was just going on today. The ACC and the Atlantic 10 also canceled their basketball tournaments out of an abundance of caution today. It happened right before VCU was set to take the court this afternoon. And our sports director, Lane Casadante, is in Brooklyn with the team. He joins us now with an update. Lane, this is a crazy day in the sports world.
Yeah, Rob, surreal is the word that VCU head coach Mike Rhoades used, and it's one that they're going to remember for the rest of their lives. As we were getting ready for VCU and Massachusetts to tip off over at the Barclays Center here, we were getting word that all conferences, the Southeastern Conference, the Big Ten, the Big 12, were all canceling their basketball tournaments, and we were wondering if the game in front of us was going to get to be played. Turns out it wasn't. Some video from the Barclays Center this afternoon as the Rams and UMass had just finished their pregame warm-ups when a simple announcement came over the PA system saying the remainder of the tournament has been canceled. Please arrive home safely. Now, VCU was going to have to win 4 games in 4 days just to have a shot to make it to March Madness. Their season comes to an abrupt end this afternoon before they even get a chance to take the court one final time. For the 5 seniors, this was a tough afternoon, especially, as head coach Mike Rhoades said, when they had to take that jersey off one last time.
There wasn't any dry eyes in our locker room afterwards, and You know, we talk about being a family all the time, sticking together even past basketball. We talked a lot about that. And you know what I told them, probably what my mom would say to me, sometimes life's just not fair and you got to deal with it. And I told our guys, you'll understand this more as we go along.
And as you mentioned, the ACC tournament down in Greensboro was canceled as well. Virginia was set to tip off at 7 o'clock tonight down there. The Richmond Spiders never even made it to the Barclays Center. Their first game wasn't scheduled until tomorrow night. But as of now, with everything, all the decisions that were made today, we have seen our last college basketball of the year. We'll have more coming up in sports at 6 o'clock. Live in Brooklyn, Lane Casadante, CBS 6. Rob.
Historic announcement from the Washington Redskins. The football team's name and logo will now be retired.
This comes after years of criticism claiming the term Redskins is a slur against Native Americans. CBS 6 Sports Director Lane Casadante is here to tell us what led up to the change and what's next for the team. Lane?
Julie and Cheryl, just a few years ago, Redskins owner Daniel Snyder was adamant about never changing the team's nickname. Now, there seems to be a rush to possibly get it done before the start of this season. The team has been known as the Redskins since 1933, but this year, pressure from longtime sponsors like Nike, FedEx, and Pepsi has joined voices of Native American groups in convincing Snyder to retire the name. The last NFL team to change their name was the Tennessee Oilers. They changed to the Titans following their move from Houston. The Redskins will need the NFL to approve any change to their name, but the league is not pressuring the team to get it done under any deadline. Head coach Ron Rivera has said recently he'd love to have it done before the start of the season, but when you consider that it's taken some franchises as long as 2 years to change a name and a logo, that seems like a very tough task. The franchise will still use the name Redskins until they are ready to unveil a new name, which will need to be trademarked at some point, and that process can take up to a year to complete.
Well, new at 6, coaches from all across the Commonwealth traveled to Richmond today to peacefully protest. Sports anchor Sean Robertson joins us live now in studio with more. Hey, Sean.
Hey, Jake, we've seen professional athletes from across the state speak out about the murder of George Floyd. Today, Virginia coaches and athletes gathered at the Arthur Ashe statue on Monument Avenue earlier this afternoon to call for racial justice. Coaches like VCU men's basketball coach Mike Rhodes was there, and colleges like Randolph-Macon, Longwood, and even high schools from across the state were represented. Armstrong High School head boys basketball coach Darrell Watts created the group 804 Coaches for Change to start an open dialogue about social justice issues. On Monday, it was all just an idea, but today's massive turnout was unexpected and proved just how much of an impact George Floyd's death has made on the sports community.
It absolutely did. It's coaches here from Tidewater. College coaches are well represented here. It's, like I said, it's really emotional.
Now, coming up later in sports, we'll hear from several more coaches about the importance of this open conversation. Jake?
Among the many things Joe McCarthy learned while he was at the University of Virginia, number one was how to win, and that a close-knit team stands a much better chance of success.
Honestly, I've learned so much just about the game of baseball from my time at UVA. I feel like I was really ready to make that transition from college ball into professional baseball from my time there.
After his years with UVA and 4 more years after being drafted by the Tampa Bay Rays, McCarthy's world was somewhat turned upside down when he was traded to the Giants in the middle of last season.
Actually, I got called into the office about 20 minutes after the deadline, and I'm sitting there, and a couple minutes go by, and I'm like, all right, deadline just passed, I'm good. I get called in the office. My manager, Brady Williams, told me I'd gotten traded to the Giants, and it was kind of like, okay, see you. Went home, packed my stuff up, and got on a plane to head out here to Sacramento. I hopped into Sacramento into another really nice clubhouse with a great group of guys, a talented bunch, and it was fun playing. We got the ball rolling towards the end of the year, and we were able to win it all.
Even though it's thousands of miles from their Scranton, Pennsylvania home, McCarthy and his younger brother Brandon are roommates once again, much as they were in Charlottesville. And they share an apartment here with Artie Lewicki, another member of the UVA team from 2014. Brandon and Lewicki are both already here in Phoenix as members of the Arizona Diamondbacks. From Scottsdale, Arizona, Lane Casadante, CBS 6 Sports.
Good evening, everyone. Depending on how our current pandemic has treated you, You could be feeling that life is handing you quite a bit more than you're used to handling these days. And there is nothing wrong with admitting being down. But as tonight's athlete will show us, the real crime is to stop looking for what can lift you up.
Right there, that's what I want.
In the 11 years that Jason Elkins has been a personal trainer, he's seen every level of athlete come through his doors.
There you go.
And he has found a way to make them all better.
Getting that body square.
From NFL players to wannabe weekend warriors.
Big shrug at the top.
Working with sprinters requires a different course of action.
Good. We want to make sure that their core, that their legs, their upper back is strong, so therefore they're able to apply more force into the ground.
Elkins has worked with the differently abled in the past as well, mainly wheelchair racers. But when Antoine Craig walked into his gym, Elkins was stopped in his tracks.
I didn't catch it the first time. What sport are we doing? He said, track. I said, what?
Antoine is nearly completely blind.
10. Good job. That's what we want.
He has retinitis pigmentosa, a condition that causes the retinas to slowly die over time. He was diagnosed a decade ago and started his academic career at VCU with some vision, but had to prepare for the inevitable.
But I had to actually commit to like my full blindness and not actually use my vision so that I could actually graduate.
Antoine had a lot working against him. Looking for something positive, he started running about 4 years ago with the help of the folks at Sportable. He ran the Broad Street Mile and found that just finishing, no matter how fast or slow, gave him something positive on which to focus.
Like once I crossed the finish line, it was just a feeling of like accomplishment that I at that time I wasn't getting, because I was like enduring so much loss. Like I'm losing my vision, I'm losing like friends, I'm away from my family, and you're just taking so many L's. Like that moment when I crossed the finish line, it's just like, okay, this feels great.
Set, go.
Through his workouts and progression, Antoine discovered he was actually a better sprinter than a distance runner.
I'm gonna do another lap.
So Antoine trains and competes with a guide runner. The two are tethered at the hands with a simple string.
Go.
The guide runner usually needs to be faster than the athlete, and they need to sync up their strides and pacing to run their best.
Go. Pull, 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 pull.
Antoine is preparing for the Pan-Olympic Games in Tokyo, which have been pushed back a year due to the coronavirus pandemic.
Right there. That's what I want.
That's more time to work out with Elkins.
Go. Drive, drive, drive.
Who was caught taking it a little too easy on Antoine at the beginning.
And when he looks at me and says, I'm blind, I'm not weak, then it put me in my place as far as, great, let's train. I'm going to train you the way I would train any other sprinter.
Antoine ran a personal best of 11.7 seconds in the 100-meter dash at the Parapan Games in Peru last summer. His goal is to run 11 seconds flat or better.
Go.
There is no doubt in anyone's mind who is around Antoine for even a few moments that goal is achievable.
You just commit to something. If you commit to anything, you could accomplish it. And I think that's why I'm kind of on this journey now.
Go. Drive, drive, drive. The attitude is what you want from any athlete. I don't care if you, whatever sport you're in, if you have an attitude the way that Antoine has, as far as it's drive, it is discipline. There's no woe is me, is I'm going to push. I have a goal and I'm going to reach a goal.
Everything that you have with you now is enough, You're not missing anything, So you can't really focus on the negative. Just focus on the positive and just keep moving and you'll get there.
As we mentioned, Antoine has even more time to prepare for the Paralympics in Tokyo, which will now be held next year. If you'd like to follow his journey, he posts regular updates on his YouTube channel. Just search for Legendary Untold. A link to his channel will be on our website as well. If you'd like to nominate someone to be profiled, email us at beyondtheroster@WTVR.com. The News at 11 is coming right back.